Welcome to Larry the Alchemist, and welcome to another edition of Rank 'em If You Got 'em. This is where I rank the albums that I own on vinyl from a particular artist. The artist that I'm going to be ranking today is Anvil. I wanted to say before I got started that I started this process last week, and between then and the making of this video, Dave Allison, the second guitarist in the band during their classic 80s era, unfortunately passed away, so we'll dedicate this particular episode to him. Okay, I own 6 Anvil albums on vinyl. Here they are in the order that they were released. Hard and Heavy, Metal on Metal, Forged in Fire, their third album, Strength of Steel, Pound for Pound, and This Is 13. All the other ones here are the albums that they released in the 80s. And then This Is 13 was kind of their comeback album of sorts. I also have this 4-track EP. It's got 3 already released songs, but there's an extra unreleased song, Steamin', which isn't that great. Sounds like an outtake from their first record, although I like this picture on the back. I think it's pretty funny, especially Lips. Okay, so Anvil is the two guys that are always in the band are Lips on guitar and Rob Reiner on drums. Lips is also the vocalist. During the 80s era, for all these records except This Is 13, it's Ian Dixon on bass and Dave Squirrely Allison on second guitar and the occasional vocals. I did a video on Forged in Fire and Metal on Metal. I'll leave that linked down below. Anvil's one of those bands that a lot of people consider them like kind of an early speed metal, proto-thrash in some ways. You know, they did get started pretty early, like 81, 82. And they were playing some stuff that was pretty fast and pretty heavy. So they are an influential band on a lot of the 80s metal bands and the early thrash bands. Okay, at number 6 for me is going to be This Is 13. This was self-released in 2007. This particular version is 2009 VH1 Classic Records. As you can see, I have it autographed from all the guys. I went to Vintage Vinyl in New Jersey, and they were there, and they did a little show, and they signed the records. That was when this had just come out. This came out after the making of the Anvil movie, which kind of brought Anvil back into the spotlight, if you will. A lot of people were talking about Anvil, and they were making this record during the movie and the whole story about the trials and tribulations that they had to go through to get this record out. It's produced by Chris Sangreeds. He produced some of their classic albums like Forged in Fire and Metal on Metal. This has Glenn Five on bass, Lips and Rob. I was expecting to like this more than I did. I haven't listened to this in quite some time, and when I revisited, I was kind of surprised. The songs that I like on here, I really like. Like, I love the title track, This Is 13. The riffing in it is just, that main riff is just monstrous. I love that pounding feel. It's got sort of that classic Anvil, Forged in Fire vibe to it. It's very intense. I love it. I love the melody line. You know, as I said in my Forged in Fire Metal on Metal video, Lips is an okay singer. He's not, I wouldn't call him an exceptional singer. So sometimes in some ways it drags some of the things back, but I do love the song This Is 13. That's great. I love the next song, Bombs Away. It's got this awesome charging, attacking riff that is just great. Burning Bridges is another really cool one. It's got kind of a syncopated start-stop riff that's really cool. There's a very strange, Ready to Fight is the last song on side 1. There's a bizarre like drop in volume in that. I don't know if that's just because of the vinyl. I have no idea. This is a double vinyl, and side 4 is 2 remakes and Thumb Hang, which is kind of a fun song. In the movie, you hear Lips talking about like one of the first ideas he ever had for a song. Flying Blind has a real catchy chorus, and the last song on side 3, Axe to Grind is really cool too. Pretty heavy, aggressive riffing. And the very last song on side 3 of the record, American Refugee, very tasty, tight chugging riff, Lips pushing his vocal range, up in a higher range, and it sounds pretty cool. But man, there's just a lot of stuff on here that is just like okay. It just doesn't jump out at me. Basically, most of side 2, a lot of side 3, just kind of goes by me, and they're not terrible, but they're just like kind of there. And it's always a bad sign when I'm listening to a record and I find that my attention has drifted somewhere else and I'm thinking of something and I have to like, oh, okay, I'm not paying attention. That's kind of a bad sign because the record isn't keeping me drawn in. And that's kind of what happens on this one. So I was hoping that this one was going to rank higher for me, but unfortunately it doesn't. All right, number 5 for me is Pound for Pound. This is from 1988. This is produced by Anvil, Paul Lacafille, and Mel Berger. Yeah, Lacafelle. I don't know. But this one falls kind of flat for me. I think the guitars sound great on this, but there's just not a lot of great songs on it. Blood on the Ice, the opening track, I appreciate the hockey references because I'm a hockey fan. Aggressive, twisting riffs. There's some nice lead playing. Corporate Preacher's pretty cool. It's got a nice sinister riff to it, kind of railing against televangelists and stuff like that. Senile King, that's got a nice drum and guitar fills throughout it. That's something to mention here too. Rob's a really great drummer, and there's a lot of songs across all these records where Rob really sounds great. Fire in the Night has this really cool heavy doom intro to it, heavy verse, a heavy vibe, and I really like the dark lyrics, but man, there's just the rest on here is just okay. So there just weren't enough good songs on this for me to rank this any higher. Okay, we are on 4. 4 for me is going to be their debut album, Hard and Heavy. This came out in 1981. It's basically produced by the band. The mix is pretty simple, but it's punchy, and the drums sound especially good to my ears. The guitar sound really reminds me, and a lot of the riffing on here really reminds me of like 70s Ted Nugent. I just hear that kind of all over this as I'm listening to this album. But, and I notice it's kind of an Anvil thing, but these sort of childish, the lyrics, the silly lyrics, it's just, I don't like it, and it kind of drags a lot of these songs down. It's a pretty cool back cover. I like this back cover. The song AC/DC, I like the chorus. It's got kind of a trippy middle section. At the Apartment in Oh Jane. Oh Jane is one of the songs that Dave Allison sings. They're okay. I gotta admit that I like Dave's voice, but the songs, although they're kind of an interesting little break from the rest of the stuff that's going on the albums, his songs tend to sound a little bit out of place here. In some ways, I would have been interested to hear him do a solo album. I think that would have been really cool. But as it stands, some of his songs just kind of don't really fit in with the record for me. I Want You Both With Me is kind of standard rock sounding. This is another one with Dave Allison on vocals. Bedroom Game is a nice Nugent style driving riff, very like Scream Dream, Dog Eat Dog, Ted Nugent, like sort of that era of him. Oh Baby, I love the opening riff on that. Painted Black, cover of the Rolling Stones tune. I mentioned Lips vocals, and I just don't think he really has the vocals to pull something like this off, but it is kind of cool the way they metalize it. They give it like sort of a maiden gallop. That's cool. Hot Child, a very UFO rock bottom Schenker main type riff. Bondage, more Nugent riff worship, really cool guitar solo with some great guitar tone. So this is pretty cool, and for a first album it is pretty good, but the production isn't quite there yet. The songwriting isn't quite there yet. All right, now we are on number 3. And really, I struggled with my top 3, which was surprising. This one came in way higher than I expected. Strength of Steel from 1987. This is on Metal Blade and Enigma Records. I forgot to mention that this one is on Attic Records, which I believe... Yeah, this one is on Attic Records, which I believe was like a small Canadian label. So this one, they're on Metal Blade and Enigma, more of a bigger label thing here. This is produced by Anvil, Paul Lachapelle, and Gabor Varsigi. The vocals are strangely kind of distant and reverbed out, but there is kind of a really cool vibe to this album, and it has a little bit of a darker, heavy sound to it that I really like, and they kind of avoid too many of the kind of silly lyrics that I tend to not like from the band. Strength of Steel is really cool. It's got a kind of Forged in Fire feel and vibe to it, which is great. Concrete Jungle, I love the groove and feel on that one. I Dreamed It Was the End of the World, Killing Driver main riff, love that. Flight of the Bumblebees, kind of a take on the classical piece Flight of the Bumblebee. It's an instrumental with all kinds of crazy chromatic guitar lines, great drumming. Straight Between the Eyes, good melody and vocal, nice vocal harmonies. This one is Dave Allison on vocals, maybe one of my favorites from him. Wild Eyes, cool double bass time, fast middle section riff was also really nice. Now, the last two songs in here, I just absolutely love, man, especially this one, Kiss of Death. Just starts off with this doomy keyboard spooky intro thing. The main opening riff is very Sabbath-like. I love the horror lyrics. I kind of wish Anvil had done more stuff like this, that type of lyric, that type of approach, because man, they do it really well. This song is great. I absolutely love Kiss of Death. And Paper General, the last song on the record, this is another one that's just great. It's got this majestic kind of grand intro with these acoustic guitars. Then it gets thrashy and galloping riffs and everything. So the last two songs on this are really killer. And I kind of wish that they had pursued a little bit more of that. As it stands, there's some other good ones too, like Cut Loose and Mad Dog. Those are fun. But I almost had this ranked higher, but I couldn't, because at number 2 for me is going to be from 1982, Metal on Metal. This is produced by Chris Sangrides. Metal on Metal is an old school metal anthem, the title track. Mothra is awesome, new wave of British heavy metal style riffing. It kind of foreshadows what Metallica would be doing on their first album. Makes me think of the first Metallica album. Cool lyrics, really big chorus. Love it. The middle always reminds me of Rush, the By Tour and a Snow Dog thing with like the affected voices, you know, Conquest Complete, Mothra's nesting. I love that line. But in that middle section, there's like this affected voice. I think it's really cool. Stop Me is Dave Allison on vocals. It's not a bad song. It feels out of place to me. But again, it's not that I don't like the song. It just seems slightly out of place. But, you know, I guess it gives a different feel to everything else that's on here. March of the Crabs is a fantastic instrumental. Here's a little bit more. This is where I hear when people talk about maybe Anvil's influence on thrash metal, because this kind of has a proto-thrash vibe to it. It reminds me of Schenker, Into the Arena, a little bit of that vibe, like from the main riff. Jackhammer, fast new wave of British heavy metal driver. I like that one. Heat Sink, love the 12/8 feel change in that one. Scenery, I like the rhythm feel in the chorus. 666 is absolutely awesome. Possibly the fastest and thrashiest number on here. The double bass drums and the evil edge to the thing. Again, I wish they had done more stuff like this. And the other one I mentioned, off of Strength of Steel, Kiss of Death, that they had stuck in that sort of zone more, man, that could have been really, really awesome. But as it stands, there's some really cool stuff on here. There's some great playing and really driving stuff. Again, you can sort of hear their influence on thrash and other bands at this time. All right, so that leaves number 1 for me, Forged in Fire. I think I just like the mix a little bit more in this one. It's got a little bit of a vibe to it, a little bit of a darker vibe to it that I really liked. Forged in Fire is one of my favorite Anvil songs. Love the heavy pounding metal riff to it. Shadow Zone is really cool. Fast Ripper, Free as the Wind. I really like that sort of over dramatic chorus where everything just stops and holds out and they sing. Really lip sings that line. Never Deceive Me is another Dave Allison vocal. This is kind of cool. And then like Future Wars, Motor Mount, Winged Assassins, those are all great. Kind of speed metal, proto-thrash, whatever you want to call it. I love the chorus in Winged Assassins and the drum beat in that. Future Wars is really cool. Motor Mount has a pretty aggressive feel to it. So this one just wins because I just love pretty much all the songs on here. And I just especially love the vibe and sort of the tone of this album. And this particular one is on Attic Records also. So, okay, there you go. There's my ranking of the Anvil albums. Number 1 for me is Forged in Fire. Number 2 is Metal on Metal. Number 3 is Strength of Steel. Number 4 is Hard and Heavy. 5 is Pound for Pound. And 6 for me is this is 13. All right, there you go. Rank them if you got them. The Anvil albums that I own. Let me know what you think of my ranking. How would you rank these albums? Would you rank any of their other albums higher than these records? I got to be honest. Anvil has a lot of records out, and I'm not that familiar with the records past these ones that I own. Maybe I should check them out. Let me know if there's some great records that I don't have from them that I should check out that you think would crack into this top 6 for me. Let me know in the comments down below. Till we see you again, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.